Well, thanks. And joining us now is Lino Rulli. And Lino, a familiar face here on Catholic TV, but he's here talking about his new book, Saint. And thanks for being here, Lino.
I'm sorry, this is the face that's so familiar. I apologize, Kevin. This is the face people go, oh, it's familiar but unpleasant.
But it's great. It's great to see you. And I know this book is about saints, and I know you were able to go to the Blessed John Paul II's funeral and had got a chance to be there when all that was happening, and now the canonization date has been set. Maybe if I get some of your thoughts on that and what that's like.
Well, I haven't been there yet. It's not like anything yet because I haven't actually gone. We're right in the middle of a timely story. What was that like 8 years ago, or what will that be like in the complete future? John Paul II was the only pope I ever knew, you know, and I mean that's the only one I've ever met, but I also mean growing up, he was the only pope. When you say pope, that's the one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
And it was kind of weird after Benedict XVI became pope. You go, why is he wearing John Paul II's outfit? So, guy I loved, guy I had a great devotion to while he was alive, was able to be at his funeral, and everybody was cheering, remember, Santo Subito, like sainthood right away.
Yeah.
And so I was lucky enough to be there in Rome the day he died, at the funeral, at the beatification, and I'm planning on going, you know, unless the Italian country just bans me from visiting anymore, I plan on being there for the canonization.
And canonization is something you address in this book, and maybe you could talk about some of the arguments that you make for your canonization.
Yeah, I don't talk about the canonization of other people like I'm real fascinated about them. I'm fascinated about my own canonization, quite frankly, because the church says we're all called to be saints. And, you know, just like, can you imagine not being at your own birthday party or not being at your own retirement party? Well, what's the fun of having a party if you don't get to be there? If we're all called to be saints, even though the church isn't going to canonize all of us, I want the church to canonize me, and I want to be at the party. I want to still be alive and going to the party, and I think it's a good way to rub it in for those girls that didn't go out with me when I was in high school and stuff. I'm like, how you like me now? Look at me, I'm a saint. You could have been married to a saint. Instead, you're married to, you know, some good-looking rich guy, but could have been me.
And saints, you know, a lot of people think of saints as, you know, people that have been through a lot of hardships, who, you know, have been through some tough times. And, you know, can you be a saint and have a good time?
I've been through hardships. I mean, look at this interview.
It only gets worse.
Oh, no, I can't imagine actually it getting any worse. I cannot imagine that. But sure, of course, you know, that's the thing is when we think of saints, we oftentimes, you grow up maybe and you're Catholic and you see the church and you see the statues and Saint Gertrude and Saint Boris, or these saints you don't really have so much familiarity with, and yeah, maybe they were martyred, maybe that's a hardship, or maybe they died early of the plague or something like that. Okay, yeah, you can't relate to those sort of saints. However, the church in the 21st century really is going to be canonizing people, in my estimation, that you can relate to. Yeah. Saints who've gone on dates, saints who have jobs, saints who've been fired. Who's the saint of the unemployed? I mean, these are the types of saints we're going to be holding up, not just popes and nuns and priests, but, you know, like the majority of the Catholic population is lay people. We're going to have to start canonizing a lot more lay people, me first.
What are some tips? What are some things that maybe I could jump onto and, you know, work towards my canonization?
Tips towards Kevin's canonization. All right.
Yeah.
First of all, burn the tapes. Secondly, the second thing you really have to do if you want to be canonized is you have to understand God calls you to be a saint. Now, Kevin, do you actually believe God is calling you to become a saint?
I do. I do.
Just cocky. Didn't see that as the answer. Well, most of us see ourselves as terrible sinners. Not Kevin. Don't kid yourself, folks. This guy's ready to go.
Well, we got to work.
All right, that's right. Most of us see ourselves as real terrible sinners. And we can't imagine saints because we imagine sainthood is purely for the perfect, for those who've never doubted God, who've never had a moment of stress in their lives, you know, except for maybe that martyrdom. But even martyrdom, perhaps, we think of saints just being like this as they're being killed or something. Yeah. Well, you know, the first thing you need to do, no, second thing, I guess, in your case, is that you got to really see that God is calling us all to holiness, and that everyone, if your goal is heaven, anyone in heaven is going to be a saint. So the first goal is, if your goal is heaven, then you have to see that you're going to make it to canonization, at least in, you know, heaven. And then here on earth, we just have to be selfish enough to want the perks of a canonization. Come on, Kevin, you want the perks, don't you? Yeah, you're a perk guy. You're a perks guy. Why wouldn't you be?
Now you've had sinner, now you get saint. Where do you go from here?
Lunch. No, you know, I don't have plans, by the way, for another book, because pretty much every story I've got, I've written in these 2 books, or I say it on the radio. So right now, I'm completely out of stories.
You have to live a little bit more.
I have to go live a crazy life for the next 5, 6 years, and then with more stories. But no, that's it. You know what? If everybody in life can say, I'm a sinner who thought through God's grace and mercy became a saint, that's the end of the story. Perfect bookend.
And where, by the way, it's a good lead-in. Where can people get the book? And maybe, you know, a candle, or I heard there's a reliquary and stuff.
Yeah. Look, you know, I want to give the Vatican every opportunity to say yes to my canonization. So I've got votive candles, I got prayer cards, I've got a reliquary, because that way, you know, if that's the stuff that's going to be holding me back from canonization, I'm going to say, look, I got all the paperwork in order.
Everything's ready to go.
Prayer cards, we got candles made. We are so ready to go. In terms of the book, this is the only one actually that was published. This is it, folks. So you're going to have to visit CatholicTV. I assume it'll just stay in the studio. So come by. I'm sure they'll give you a tour. And that'll be, my publisher wants me to say, or Amazon.com, or wherever fine books are sold.
Well, that's great. If you can, get the book, and I'm sure it's going to be a great read.
If you can, well, why can't you?
Well, I don't
What do you
know.
mean if you can? Of course you can. We insist you do.
Do it. Well, thanks, Lino, for being with us.
Of course. Thank you, Kevin.
Let's send it back to the more of This Is the Day.